In this tutorial, I'll show you how to make the low polygon puppet character for your high noon scene. So on your polygon modeling shelf, create a polygon cube using your transform, rotate and scale keys, so the WER keys. We'll move it up, we'll scale it a bit. This is going to be the body of our character, like so. So that's just using the R key to go into scale mode. Just move them down. We'll use the grid as the floor for our character. We need to add some subdivisions to this now. I'll do this in the history of the object. So over here, we've got our channel box, and make sure if you haven't got this displayed, it's this little icon here to bring up your channel box. You'll see these tabs on the side, so you can select between the different icons you've got selected here. In inputs, polycube, you'll see you've got subdivisions. Okay, if I click on one of those, just highlight it, then middle mouse button drag, so that I can add subdivisions like so. So I'm just going to add, make sure this is set to 3 subdivisions like so, and I'll put some in the width as well. And these will just allow us to do a little bit of basic sculpting to start off with. I'm going to right click on my object and go into vertex mode. I'm then going to select all of these vertices here, like so. Make sure they're all selected through the character, like so. I'm calling it a character already. It's still only a box at the moment. Press the R key to go to scale mode. I'm just going to scale those out like so. Okay. And then we're going to have arm joints up here. We're going to make the arms here. So I'm going to pick all those verts there. Just again, make sure you've got them all selected. Press the W key and move them up to so. And these up to be around about the waist of our character. And then we'll scale things a little bit. Okay, so give it a little bit of shape to start off with. I'll try and get through this quickly. And let's try and round the character a little bit. So I've just tapped the space bar so I can go to my front view like so. And I'm going to select those. I'm going to hold Control Shift, which just adds to selection. Control and select gets rid of selection. So if I hold that, you can see a little minus icon appears. Control and Shift adds to selection so that I can keep adding to selection. And just Shift on its own toggle selection, so that if I select those and then hold Shift down to select everything, it inverts the selection. So Control and Shift is good if you're just adding to selection. So just like this, and like this. And make sure you're selecting through the object. There's a few settings in Maya that means you can only select visible components. In here, we double click on this little selection icon here. It's got something called camera-based selection. So make sure that's turned off if you want to be able to select through everything on your object, i.e. the things that are invisible to the camera. If you have this turned on, it will only select stuff that the camera can see. It's quite good for like busy models and stuff like that if you're only trying to select the vertices at the front of the model. But make sure that's turned off. Okay, we can hide this away by this little icon here has come up. I've got mine docked over there. Yours might come up sort of floating around the window kind of thing. Right, I want to scale these up, so I've got those points selected, so R, and I'll scale those in the Z like that. And it just gives sort of rounds off our character a little bit like so. Okay, then going to look at it in the side view, and we'll just sculpt it a little bit in this view. So that this is the top of the shoulders from the side, so we'll scale them in a bit like so. This is the back of the character, so I'll just make that a little bit straighter, and I'll pull these forward a little bit. Like so, keeping it very simple at the moment, and you can muck about and add much more character and shape and so on to your model later on. Right, we want some arms. So I'm going to pick this face here. So I right click over my model. So I've got component mode, go into face mode. I select that face there, and then I turn it around, hold Shift, and pick that face there. So I shift on its own, like I said, is toggle selection, but it also is multi-selection. It's just that if you click on an existing selected thing, it will toggle it back off again, whereas Control Shift will keep adding to selection. Hopefully that is as clear as it can be. Right, now then what we need is the extrude tool. What I'll do now, I'll load up the modeling toolkit. I don't use this a lot, but I'm trying to use some of the functions in Maya that I don't sort of play about with too much. But over here, look, this little hammer and cube brings up your modeling toolkit. And this is a good shortcut to all your sort of basic polygon modeling tools. They also all live up on the shelf here. This is where I tend to find them. Look, there's the extrude tool there. It also lives there as well. So if I click on that, I can then, using the blue arrow, pull it out like this, using the blue arrow, sorry. And that pulls those extruded polygons out so I can actually see them. Do be careful with extrusions. It's so easy to do an extrude and forget it's there, and you end up with sort of hidden faces in your model. So make sure when you do an extrude, pull it out so you can see it and it doesn't just sit there on another face hiding away and cause problems later on. You can see when you use the extrude tool, it brings up this little localized kind of transform tool. Which is really good. So I can pull both of these out, and it's pulling them out based on the kind of what are called the sort of transforms of that face, okay, rather than the world object. If I press the W key, you can then see that I can move them in world space. Okay, so they move together like that. So, and then I press the T key, and it takes me back to their localized kind of thing, which is good. But look, if I then try to move them up and down, look, you can see they move that way. So then I might want to press W if I wanted to move them up and down in world space. So you just get used to toggling between when you're in extrude mode like that. Going back to the T key is quite good. So look, I'm going to scale these now, like so. Not like that, but like that. That's good. Just make them a little bit sort of skinnier. And then I want to move them up, and look, like I said, look, this moves them like that. So I need to press the W key. I can just move them up like so, and just scale them out a little bit more. Like so, and we're going to extrude them again. Look, those two faces are still selected, so I can just do another extrude and pull them out, and one more extrude for the hands, like so. And it might be that the arms are a bit long at the moment, but we can adjust those later on. Okay, I'm going to go into the front view and just do a little bit of scaling. So I'm going to pick the whole body, scale that down a bit, and you can see I'm just multi-selecting stuff. And when you multi-select stuff, the scale tool will find the middle point of all those multiple selections, so you can scale them based on that midpoint. If you select only one component, like just one vertex, then you won't be able to scale it, because it's just like it's got nothing to scale based on. Faces and edges will scale, but points won't, unless you've got multiple selections. Again, I hope that makes sense, but play about with it and hopefully it will eventually start to make sense. So I'm just going to muck about with them a bit. I'm kind of giving them sort of mitten hands. It's just very low polygon. So again, using the scale tool, so I'm scaling them out from that middle point. Oh, no, I'm in scale tool there. I just need to be in move tool there. Okay, like so. Whoops. And I'm just going to bend the elbows backwards a bit so I know which way my character's facing. It just kind of helped me understand which way everything's facing. I'll just scale the wrists down a little bit in that view. There you go, something like that will do for now. Shoulders need scaling down a little bit. Let's just select those faces up there. Again, you can muck about for ages getting this exactly how you want it to be. Now we want to make the head. So I'm going to go right click, face, pick that face out, make sure you've got nothing else selected. You don't want to be extruding any faces behind. And I want to use the extrude tool. Now there's something in my 2018 that's new. If I go into transform like that with a single extrude like this, I didn't do it with a multi-extrude because I wanted to bring them out. The two extrudes for the arms, I used the old-fashioned extrude tool. But there's something quite nice and quick in my 2018. If I hold the shift key down now, look, I can just do an extrude on that selected face. So in transform mode, holding the shift key can do an extrude. So look, I'll scale that down. This is going to be top of his shoulders, like so. So I want it, yeah, about like that for now is fine. Let's just make that face a little bit of a different shape so it's better for his neck, like that. And then W, hold shift key again. That's going to be his neck. Hold the shift key again. Another extrude. We'll scale this one up. And back into transform mode and shift key again, and we've got a head. Okay, so we've got a very basic kind of character at the moment like that. So make his head a bit bigger. We want some ears for our character, so I'll pick that face there and that face there, like so. I'm going to use, because I've got two faces selected, I'm just going to use the old extrude tool, so I can kind of understand what I'm doing. If I kind of pull them about using the other extrude, it might go a bit weird. I'm not sure. I haven't used it a lot because it's a new feature. So look, I've selected that center scale point there, so I can scale it. These are going to be ears. Nice and thin. I'm just going to pull them out a bit because look, it will give his face, you know, a bit more of a rounded kind of look. And finally, I want to extrude those out, so I'll click extrude again and pull them out using the blue arrow. Oh look, he's got very low polygon ears. Okay, so next I'm going to go to the side view and we'll do a bit of sculpting. So into vertex mode, remember right click, move that point around like this. And that's what's nice about the orthographic views, is it's kind of makes everything nice and easy in 2D when you're working in low poly or well, any kind of poly, but it just makes it a lot easier to sort of understand what you're doing at an early stage of your model. So I'm just sculpting these shapes a little bit as I go along. So that'll do for now in that view. Go back to this view. Might make the top of his head a bit wider. And maybe the front of his face a little bit tapered like his chin. Something like that for now will do. Okay. Shoulders are looking a bit square, but we can move those points up and stuff. And you can just muck about and sculpt to your heart's content until you've got something that you're happy with. But try to keep it simple at this level. Next thing we're going to do is if we go back into object mode, so I can use the F8 key, which is toggles between object and component mode, or you can right click on it, go object mode, like so. The F keys, the F8 to I think F12 are quite good quick selection hotkeys for component and object mode. If I click off him so he's deselected, you can see he's got what I call hard edges. So what we call faceted. So he's got these very hard edges across his low poly structure. What I'm going to do is soften those edges. It's not going to add any polygons, but it will just affect how it renders across those edges. So select him in object mode. Make sure you're in the modeling drop-down menu over here because you want this mesh display menu here, and we've got soften edges. And you can see that it does create some hard shadows across tight angles, but it's a nicer kind of look for the character. He hasn't got those sort of faceted looks, and you can use that to your advantage. You can put hard edges in where you might want joints in clothing, or you might want a jawline or stuff like that. You can add those kind of features into him. So that's where we're at now, and next what we'll do is we'll build a hat for him.